Discover the incredible marvel of Marmon trucks. A heartwarming journey into unexpected luxury. Jake Thompson walked into his father's auto shop, the scent of motor oil wrapping around him like an old friend. He was still wearing the grease-stained coveralls that hinted at long days spent with his hands deep in engines, repairing or reviving whatever passed through his doors. At 38, a single dad raising 2 kids in the small Midwestern town of Maplewood, life was simple, but the weight of unfulfilled dreams constantly tugged at his heart. The storefront smiled back at him with faded paint, but held stories of community, Mrs. Thompson trading cookies for oil changes, neighbor kids coming for help with their bike chains. It was a hard life, but it was his as autumn brushed the trees with fire. Whispers of a wealthy truck magnate planning a showcase for his luxury Marmon trucks rumbled through the town square. The townsfolk, with their hearts set on the glistening machines that sparkled under the sun, seemed entranced. Jake felt a tightening in his chest watching as folks marveled at cars that felt out of reach. The allure of glitter cast his tireless craftsmanship into shadow. Did they ever see the heart and soul he poured into each repair, each weary bolt tightened? Then came the unexpected: a dusty, battered Marmon rolling into his shop, driven by an aging veteran, eyes filled with stories of bravery and sacrifice. As Jake turned wrenches and replaced worn-out parts, they shared laughs and memories that spilled into the air like warm summer breezes. The veteran's tales painted images of camaraderie, colors of honor and resilience that lit Jake's spirit. They spoke of what made America: hard work, sacrifice, and the unseen bonds of friendship that outshine any dazzling luxury. As the showcase neared, tension enveloped the town. Debate brewed over breakfast tables and coffee shops: should they celebrate glitz or the grit that made them who they were? Jake wrestled with his dreams, torn between the spotlight and the simple joys of community. Life had taught him to lend a hand, to be part of something greater. And then, disaster struck just as the showcase began. An engine failure in a Marmon truck sent waves of panic through the crowd. Hearts raced. Expectations soared. Jake stood in the storm of chaos, between the urgent cries for help and the tempting sparkles of success gleaming under the fair day's sun. Suddenly, it was as if time slowed. The townsfolk looked to him, and Jake felt the weight of their hopes settle around him. In that moment, something crystallized within him: wasn't true luxury the warmth of community, the bond forged in kindness? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, with the whispers of honor in his ears and the glimmer of dreams stirring deep within his heart. Jake faced a crossroads in a town longing for direction. The question burned: could he still find worth in a world chasing after glimmering wealth? As he reached for the tools of his trade, the chaos around him faded. Was this the moment he could redefine success, showing the townsfolk that craftsmanship and community spirit mattered more than any shiny facade? With all eyes on Jake, the choice he made now held the power to change everything, but at what cost? Jake inhaled deeply, the familiar scent of motor oil grounding him. The crowd's anxious murmurs pulsed in the air, each sound intensifying the weight on his shoulders. He glanced at the broken Marmon, its vibrant paint now muted against the backdrop of uncertainty. The owner, the weathered veteran, stood by, his eyes reflecting a blend of worry and trust. In that moment, Jake didn't just see a truck. He saw a lifeline. With every bolt he tightened, he felt the echoes of the veteran's stories animating his hands. This job was more than a simple repair. It was a promise and affirmation of their shared journey through hardship and hope. He could give the town something to rally behind, something that transcended luxury. "All right, everyone," Jake shouted, finding his voice amidst the rustle of concern. "I'm going to need a couple of strong hands and a few quick minds." People began to move, energized by his words. A few eager kids raced over, smudging their clothes with grease as they offered to help. Jake chuckled softly at their enthusiasm. He gathered them around and assigned tasks, while the older residents formed a human wall of support, sharing tools and advice as Jake dove under the truck. He could hear the excited chatter overhead. Neighbors criticized the Frost family for their obsession with flashy trucks, while others defended their passion. The tension hung thick, but it didn't deter Jake's focus. He had a singular purpose: to get the Marmon up and running. The familiar rhythm of wrenching felt like music to his ears. Each twist and turn of the tool brought a sense of camaraderie and purpose, reminding him of the many late-night repairs he'd tackled with friends back in the day. "Need any help down there?" A deep voice called, and Jake looked up to see an old high school buddy, Tom, joining the crowd. "Yeah. Can you hand me that wrench?" Jake replied, feeling a surge of gratitude. Simple gestures like that meant the world. With Tom's help, they tackled the engine together, talking shop and reminiscing about old times. As they worked, laughter filled the space, mingling with the tension that had once suffocated the crowd. Jake soaked in every memory, shared the trials, the victories, reminding him that the essence of community thrived in unity and strength. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last bolt was tightened. Jake slowly emerged from underneath the Marmon, wiping sweat from his brow. The crowd drew closer, anticipation painted on their faces. "Okay, let us see if she roars like she used to," Jake said, his palms tingling with nervous energy. He slipped into the driver's seat, feeling the worn leather embrace him like an old friend. With a deep breath, he turned the key. The engine sputtered, hesitated, and then like a call back to life it roared, deep and powerful, reverberating through the lot. Cheers erupted from the crowd, a tidal wave of sound that washed away every doubt. The townsfolk erupted into applause, celebrating not just the revival of an old truck, but the revival of their spirits as Jake stepped out. The veteran approached, tears glimmering in his eyes. "You brought it back," he said, working past the lump in his throat. "You reminded us what really matters." But as Jake beamed with pride, a flicker of concern tugged at his heart. He had made a choice today, but how would it affect his shop? How would it change the path he had been walking all these years? As the crowd began to celebrate, a new voice rang out, demanding attention. The wealthiest family in town had arrived, intrigued by the commotion. Their presence unfolded a new chapter, and Jake could feel a shift in the air. What would this mean for him and his community? Would the allure of wealth overshadow the resilience he inspired? The answers hung like an unspoken promise in the air, waiting to be revealed. As the Frost family stepped forward, an aura of polished wealth surrounded them, their tailored clothes contrasting sharply with the grease-streaked overalls of the townsfolk. Jake's heart raced. He had watched the Frosts transform the town with their money, but he had never imagined they would show up like this, unannounced and allured by a celebration that almost felt foreign in such an intimate setting. "What's this ruckus about?" Mr. Frost's voice boomed, a hint of curiosity lacing through his authoritative tone. His eyes scanned the crowd, then landed on Jake, who stood wiping grime from his hands. "We brought the Marmon back to life," Jake declared with a confidence he barely felt. The pride of the crowd surged into his words. "She is a beauty, right? Not just a truck, but a part of this community's heart." Mrs. Frost, standing elegantly beside her husband, offered a polite smile. "That's impressive," she said, but her eyes betrayed a hint of skepticism. "But I wonder, is this the kind of vehicle that has a place at the Frost estate?" A murmur rippled through the crowd. It was subtle, but Jake felt the weight of doubt. Did these people from the upper echelon see the value in the Marmon as he did? Suddenly, that exhilaration of victory felt overshadowed. Jake stepped forward. "This truck means something to us. It's about what we can accomplish together, a symbol of resilience and community. It's about far more than appearance or wealth." A few nods came from the crowd, voices quietly murmuring their agreement. But he was met with Mr. Frost's calculating gaze. "And we all know that wealth can restore things to their former glory," he replied, as if measuring Jake's passion against his resources. Jake inhaled sharply. Could he really convince them that the Marmon wasn't just a toy for the rich? Something in his gut told him this moment was pivotal. You're right, he acknowledged. But there's another way of looking at it. This isn't just about fixing a truck. It's about repairing bonds. This community hasn't just come together to fix a vehicle. They've united to uplift each other. Linda, he gestured to an older woman who had shared her childhood memories of the truck, said it was her father's pride. That happens here. We bring our stories alive in the work we do. A brief silence enveloped the crowd as the Frosts exchanged glances, the tension palpable. For a heartbeat, Jake feared he had overstepped. But then, he noticed a flicker of recognition in Mrs. Frost's eyes. Was it curiosity? Was it the faint spark of understanding? Perhaps, she said carefully, there could be value in preserving that kind of legacy. We do love a good story. A wave of relief washed over Jake, followed by a mixture of hope and trepidation. Would they see the Marmon revival as a chance to reconnect with the community spirit or merely as an opportunity to further their own status? As the crowd buzzed with uncertain excitement, Tom nudged Jake. You think they'll back you up? I mean, are they really the type to care? Before Jake could answer, Mr. Frost took a step closer, a thoughtful frown forming on his brow. Let us see how this plays out, Jake. I'm curious about your vision. All eyes turned to him, waiting for Jake to unravel the next thread in their story. He opened his mouth, feeling the weight of expectations pressing against his throat. The future felt uncertain, but one thing was certain. The choice had been laid before him. Here's the deal, Jake finally said, his pulse quickening. What if we make something bigger than the Marmon? What if we combine our strengths? The murmurs grew louder, possibilities dancing in the air. But as Jake locked eyes with the Frosts, he wondered. Could the vision he was about to propose bridge the ever-widening gap between their worlds? Or was it too late to turn back? A promise hung in the balance, ready to unfold into an unexpected connection, or perhaps into an even greater divide. Would they take the leap with him? Only time would tell. Jake felt the weight of the crowd's gaze as anticipation thickened the air. He could almost hear their hearts beating, all waiting for him to take the plunge into a vision that could change everything. A part of him was terrified, battling doubts that gnawed at his insides. What if this fell flat? What if they didn't get it? With a deep breath, he steadied himself. Let us take this beyond just one truck. What if we created a community restoration project? We could fix up the Marmon but also help out other families in need. Residents could get involved. Whether it's fixing homes, teaching skills, or telling the stories of our past, helping each other to thrive. The Frosts listened intently. Mr. Frost's brow furrowed deeper, his expression not betraying even a hint of acceptance or rejection. Mrs. Frost, on the other hand, looked intrigued, her eyes twinkling with the prospect of something more than a simple facade. The crowd began to murmur, excitement rippling through them like a summer tide. Imagine, Jake continued with growing confidence, seeing the bright faces of kids in town who learn how to fix up their very own projects. Or the elders, telling tales and passing on wisdom while they work alongside the younger people. This could be our legacy, not just for today, but for years to come. A boy from the crowd, hardly more than 10 years old, tugged at his mother's sleeve. Can I help with the truck, Mom? His wide eyes shone with excitement, showing how much he wanted to belong to something bigger. Jake's heart swelled at the sight. That's what this was about: community, connection, and belonging. He turned back to the Frosts. Your support could mean everything, but it has to be real. We need to ensure that the people, the stories, and the labor are valued as much as any dollar bill. Mrs. Frost's smile broadened. I see a value in this, she replied, the skepticism melting away. This could change a lot, Jake. We could host workshops, sponsor community events, even showcase the Marmon as a centerpiece of what real community spirit looks like. Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. Was this really happening? Could he make a mark that went beyond himself? The weight of the Frost's power seemed lighter now, and hope flickered in everyone's eyes. But Mr. Frost cleared his throat, and the crowd grew quiet once more. Let us not get ahead of ourselves, Jake. How exactly do we implement this? We're not displacing our brand or altering our community standing. We need to make sure that this is beneficial for both sides. We can't simply throw our weight around. The tension snapped back like a frayed rubber band. Jake opened his mouth, ready to defend his vision, but doubt clawed at him. This was exactly what he feared: the divide. Would they only see the profit in it? Listen, I appreciate your intention, Jake said carefully. But this is about more than money. It's genuine connection. I don't want the frost mark on this if it's just another way to show off. We need to bring the town together authentically. A moment hung, pregnant with uncertainty. Then, just as Jake feared retreat, Mrs. Frost beamed, turning to her husband. What if we make this a family endeavor? Partner with the town in ways that truly connect. With your vision and our resources, Jake, we might find a way to build something together. The crowd erupted into applause, a sound like rolling thunder. Yet, despite the cheers, Jake couldn't shake a nagging worry. What if they weren't sincere? This community had always been about heart, and he wanted to ensure they didn't fall to the shadows of profit and pretension. As the claps faded, the weight of what lay ahead settled on his shoulders. Could they really bridge that gulf, create a lasting bond? Or would this just be another fleeting moment before the frost returned? With a heavy heart full of hope, Jake stood ready for the answer. But the question remained. Was he brave enough to make this leap into the uncharted territory of love, community, and genuine connection? Or would he find himself stepping back into the shadows? Jake's heart raced, the applause cutting through the tension that had settled just moments before. He could see the Frosts exchanging glances, a silent dialogue taking place that he didn't have access to. This was the moment where hope danced at the edge of uncertainty, ready to plunge into either triumph or despair. Mrs. Frost stepped forward, her voice full of warmth, but underlying authority. All right then, let us discuss the nuts and bolts, Jake. The first thing is rallying people around this project. We'll need a committee, volunteers, maybe even a town hall meeting to lay the groundwork. Yes, Jake nodded fervently, the ideas flooding back to him. We can start small. Create a timeline for the restoration of the Marmon. Set dates for community cleanups, skill-sharing workshops. The crowd's excitement intensified, eyes lighting up with newfound purpose. Jake felt energized, like a wildfire catching in the dry grass of the rural town. But, at the back of his mind, the doubt lingered like a shivering shadow, whispering cautions that he wished he could ignore. Mr. Frost's voice broke through his thoughts, deeper and authoritative. And let us make sure we have a plan for funding, too. We can't just rely on goodwill. We'll need to show numbers, how this benefits everyone, us included. Jake hesitated. It felt like a tightrope walk now, balancing passion and profit. I understand, he said, trying to keep the warmth in his tone. But I believe we should strive to create value in ways that may not be immediately visible on paper. This isn't just a project. It's about igniting inspiration. If it inspires the people, Mrs. Frost chimed in, supportive but firm, then we're all for it. But we need concrete steps. Do you have any ideas for initiatives? Yes. We can organize community days with food trucks, perhaps include a storytelling night near the Marmon, reaching out to elders to share their wisdom. We can gather stories that connect us, the ties that bind a community. The crowd buzzed at his suggestions. Nodding heads and murmurs of agreement floated through the air. That was when the young boy from earlier piped up again. And we can plant flowers too. Flowers everywhere. It'll make it pretty. The laughter, mixed with genuine applause, filled the air again. Jake felt his heart lift. The vision was growing, the connection palpable and real. But beneath that surface was a creeping anxiety, the question of sincerity rearing its head once more. Would this just remain a good idea, or would it fade like many before it? He looked around at the faces, searching for signs of true commitment, connection. Then, Mr. Frost surprised him with a sudden nod. All right, Jake, he said with unexpected warmth in his voice. Let us formalize this, draft a proposal. We'll work together on this community restoration project. Jake's heart raced. The possibilities seemed endless. Yet he blended excitement with caution. What did working together truly mean? Would this family truly invest in the heart of the community, or would it slip through their fingers like grains of sand? Just then, a girl spoke up, her voice shy but sincere. Can we have a mural on the side of the truck? To show everyone how much we care? Jake smiled wide. Here it was again. A genuine dream taking shape in unexpectedly beautiful ways. He could feel the connection swell around him, tugging at his heart. The gathering began to disperse, but he stayed back, surrounded by the lingering echoes of hope and skepticism intertwined. Could they create something lasting? Could art and stories build bridges where once there were only silos? As he stepped away, the Frosts were deep in conversation about logistics, and Jake's mind raced with possibilities. Each person represent a thread, weaving together a tapestry of shared experience. But as he walked home, he pondered, would this time be different? Would they truly embrace the heart of community spirit? The answer lay ahead, shrouded in the unknown. Could he trust them enough to share the vision and to make it matter? Jake awoke the next morning with a mix of excitement and apprehension swirling inside him. The sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating his bedroom where sketches of the Marmon and brainstorming notes flitted before his eyes. He felt as if the weight of the project rested squarely on his shoulders, and yet, there was a spark of hope in his heart, a yearning to see the glory of the old truck revived. After a quick breakfast, he grabbed his notebook and headed to the coffee shop, where he could gather his thoughts and outline a plan. The barista, a cheerful woman with a warm smile, noticed Jake's furrowed brow as he settled at a corner table. You all right, Jake? You look like you're carrying the weight of the world. He chuckled softly, the tension easing a bit, just trying to figure out how to turn a dream into reality. He sipped his coffee, the warmth seeping through him, igniting that passion once more. He took a deep breath and began jotting down thoughts. He could see the community calendar filling up with events, everyone pouring their time and effort into the restoration. A mural here, a community day there. But the thought of managing all those expectations weighed heavily on him. The bell above the door jingled as familiar faces trickled in, friends and neighbors eager for their morning fix. Each greeted him with a smile, a pat on the back, or an encouraging word about the Marmon project. Their belief fueled his determination, yet questions swirled. What if they were only enthusiastic for the moment? What if, once initial excitement faded, he found himself alone with the mammoth task ahead? Jake looked up from his notes and caught sight of Sylvia, a local artist with a bright brush of creativity who had painted the town with color. She hadn't noticed him yet, but he could see the light in her eyes as she sketched idly in her notebook. Maybe he could ask her for help. Hey, Sylvia, he called out, waving her over. She smiled and strolled to his table, sliding into the seat opposite him. What's this I hear about a Marmon project? Jake gestured to his notes. I have ideas, but they're still a bit, well, scattered. I want to involve the community in creative ways, artistic initiatives, transformations. Her interest piqued, she leaned forward. Tell me more. I see a mural in the town square, showcasing the history of the Marmon. We could get other artists involved. As they brainstormed, the ideas flowed freely. The mural wouldn't just beautify the space. It could become a canvas for the community's stories. Suddenly, the doubt that had clung to Jake began to dissolve. He felt a camaraderie forming, as though each word exchanged added another thread to their tapestry of hope. But just as ideas began to coalesce, Jake's phone buzzed with an incoming message. He glanced and his heart dropped. A notification from the town planning board had popped up, requesting a presentation about the project in just 2 days. He could feel a cold sweat form at the back of his neck. 2 days. What was he thinking? He needed structure, a concrete plan, and now, I just got a message about a presentation. Jake's voice wavered. I have to pull everything together quickly. Sylvia's eyes sparkled with confidence. Then let us do it together. We can meet up tomorrow and put this vision into shape. You aren't alone in this. He nodded, grateful for her encouragement, and a new fire ignited within him. But as he left the coffee shop, the reality of the timeline pressed firmly against him. Would the Frosts even take him seriously? Could he pull together a presentation that would not only wow them but also make everyone understand the depth of the project? Jake stepped out into the bustling street, a mix of excitement and fear gripping him. How could he translate all this passion into something that felt substantive, something that wouldn't just vanish once the applause faded? As he rounded the corner, he caught a glimpse of the Marmon, parked under the fading sunlight. He hesitated for a moment, feeling as if he were staring into a mirror of potential. Reflection and responsibility intertwined. Tomorrow couldn't just be a presentation. It needed to be the start of a journey, a commitment to reignite the spirit of the community. And at that moment, he made a silent vow. He would show everyone why the Marmon mattered, whatever it took. But would that vow be enough? What lay ahead in the journey of realization? And would he truly have the community backing him when it counted most? Jake woke up early, an awful mix of excitement and anxiety swirling in his gut. The sun poured through his bedroom window, lighting up the sketches spread across his desk like pieces of a puzzle yet to be solved. Last night's conversations with Sylvia replayed in his mind, her passion infectious. The mural, the stories, it felt like a spark. But he needed more than inspiration. He needed a solid plan, a blueprint to bring to life the idea that consumed him. Tossing aside the covers, he dressed quickly. Each piece of clothing felt heavy with expectation, pressing down on him. With each step down the stairs, he focused on the image of the Marmon, vintage yet distinguished, awaiting transformation. He made his way to the local library, a quieter spot than the coffee shop. Here, he could channel his thoughts without the distractions of people bustling around him. As he settled into a secluded corner, he opened his notebook. Sitting there, in the stillness, he felt adrenaline pulsing through him. This was it. He would map out not just a presentation, but a vision. He took a sip of lukewarm coffee from his thermos and began writing. Each detail flowed from his mind, a timeline for events, a listing of materials needed, potential artists for collaboration. Yet a lingering worry stayed with him. The Frosts, the high-powered couple that ran the town planning board. Would they see his dream, or would they turn him away with their polished ideals? Hours passed in a blur. The pages filled with sketches of the Marmon transforming, events marked with bold strokes of color, and ideas for community involvement sketched out like a vibrant tapestry. Just as he began to feel a sense of accomplishment, the clock struck noon, snapping him out of his focus. It was time to meet Sylvia. The two met at a small park, sunlight filtering through the trees. Sylvia was already there, her sketchbook open, a few light brush strokes visible on the page. She looked up, eyes sparkling with creativity. Ready to bring this to life? More than ready, he replied, feeling energized by her enthusiasm. I made some plans that we can work on together. As they discussed ideas, Jake felt a warmth growing inside him. Sylvia's insights were gold. She suggested themes for the mural based on local history, vibrant colors that represented their community's spirit, and even discussed hosting workshops to engage more people. Each adjustment to the plan made it richer, broader, more than he had ever envisioned. But as the conversation grew deeper, Jake couldn't shake the worry that coiled tight around his heart. What if people don't show up? What if it's just us? What if? Stop right there, she interrupted, her voice firm yet caring. You're not alone in this. You've sparked interest. Look around. People want to be a part of something meaningful. Trust that. Her words hung in the air, igniting a flicker of hope in him. They kept brainstorming, sketching out plans under the vibrant trees, time slipping away unnoticed. Jake felt lighter, encouraged. The Marmon didn't just represent restoration. It was about community, connection, and shared stories. After hours of work, they stood back to admire their progress, two friends finding strength in art and history. But as they wrapped up, Jake's phone buzzed again. Anxiety crept back, almost setting in stone with the notification. A message from his mother. She had heard whispers about his idea and wanted to see him. Maybe she's excited? Sylvia said, trying to decipher his expression. Or maybe she thinks I'm in over my head, Jake said, suddenly uncertain. He stared at the phone, battling that mix of hope and dread. What if her words weren't what he expected? Just as he decided to message her back, a shadow shifted behind him. Jake? A voice called. He turned and gasped. It was the Frosts, standing just a few feet away, expressions unreadable. "Can we talk?" His heart raced. Here it was the moment he had both anticipated and feared. Would they see his vision? Would they understand? It felt as though his dreams were on the line, hanging before him, ready to take flight or fall apart. But before he could utter a word, the urgency of the moment washed over him. He wasn't just fighting for a truck. He was advocating for their story, for the community. He took a deep breath, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Jake hesitated for a moment, searching their faces for a hint of what they were thinking. The Frosts had always represented the pinnacle of what it meant to be successful in this town, and their approval could either launch his dream forward or squash it entirely. Sure, he finally said, forcing out the words as he stood a little taller. "I'd like to share my vision for the Marmon project." His voice was steadier than he felt inside. "Great," Mr. Frost replied, his tone casual but his eyes searching. "We've been hearing some buzz about it, and we wanted to know more." Jake felt the weight of the moment sink in, the urge to suddenly justify his every idea bursting like a dam inside him. The Marmon was more than a restoration project, it was a canvas for the community, a way to forge connections. He had to make them understand that. With Sylvia standing by him, he launched into his proposal. The words flowed more easily than he expected, fueled by his passion. He spoke of the truck's history, its place in town lore, and the vibrant mural that would revive its soul. He described the workshops, the community involvement. As he spoke, he found himself animated, his hands moving to illustrate each point, painting the picture he had drawn in his sketches. But he could see the Frost's expressions shifting slightly. Was it skepticism? Interest? He was unable to decipher it, and doubt began to gnaw at him. "What you're suggesting is ambitious, Jake," Mrs. Frost interjected. "But can you guarantee enough community engagement to make this work? There's a lot of effort and resources." Her words sliced through his excitement like a knife. Could he truly promise that? The community had been distant for so long, clouded by recent struggles. Would they rally around this vision he had? Fear whispered at the edges of his thoughts, threatening to unravel his resolve. Before he could respond, Sylvia chimed in. "I believe they will. The community craves connection, and Jake's vision taps into that. We've seen people get excited just from talking about it. But it will take some work to get the word out, to invite them in." Her confidence was like a lifebuoy, pulling him back from the brink of despair. Jake nodded, looking at the Frosts. "I want to create something meaningful for everyone. This isn't just about the truck. It's about our town and its stories. I believe we can do it together. We just need the support to get it off the ground." A moment of silence lingered. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, uncertain of what would come next. The Frosts exchanged a glance, and he could sense the wheels turning in their minds, the beginning of an understanding forming. "All right, let us say we're interested," Mr. Frost finally said, his tone serious yet encouraging. "But we need to see that you've got a solid plan and a way to stimulate interest beyond just talking. We can't have another project that fizzles out." Jake felt a mixture of relief and pressure wash over him. They were willing to listen, there was still hope. "I can do that. I'll put together a more detailed proposal and include a strategy for community engagement. It might help to hold a town hall meeting," Mrs. Frost added thoughtfully. "Get everyone excited and involved from the start. People like to feel included." Her suggestion sparked something in Jake, like a flashlight illuminating a dark path. "That is a great idea. I can organize it." The Frosts exchanged nods, and Jake felt the first real pangs of excitement shoot through him again. The conversation began to shift toward details, logistics, and the groundwork necessary to set the project in motion. But amid the discussions, Jake's mind wandered to the nagging message from his mother. What would she think? There was so much at stake, not just his dreams, but the broader hopes of the community. What if she didn't approve? Or worse, didn't believe in him? As they wrapped up the meeting, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting warm golden light over the park. Jake's heart raced, a mix of determination and anxiety coursing through him. The moment had been a step forward, But he knew there were still hurdles ahead as the Frosts walked away. Their laughter lingering in the air, he turned to Sylvia. "Do you think we can really pull this off?" With a smile, she nudged his shoulder. "Absolutely. But it's time you send that message to your mom. You might be surprised by her response." He took a deep breath, eyes drawn to the fading sun. Could he bear to face her doubts? And what if her response changed everything? He pulled out his phone, heart drumming, and began to type. His fingers hovered over the screen, doubts darting in and out of his mind like fireflies in the twilight. What if she shot down his dream before it had a chance to breathe? Jake took a deep breath, recalling the smile on Sylvia's face, the encouragement in Mr. Frost's voice. Those memories warmed him. He tapped a message. "Hey Mom, I've got something important to share about the Marmon project." Each word he typed felt like a small step forward, yet he hesitated. Was he ready to invite her judgment into this fragile moment? He paused, chewing on his lip. It had been years since they discussed anything that wasn't wrapped in awkward silences or thinly disguised criticism. Would she see this for what it was, a chance to connect, or simply another embarrassing venture for her son? He hit send, feeling a knot form in his stomach. Almost instantly, a reply lit up his screen, causing his heart to leap. "What's this about? You're working on your dreams? Sounds interesting." Relief washed over him, but there was no time to waste. Jake turned to Sylvia, who was eyeing him curiously. She responded. "I think she's at least a little intrigued." "Great, that's a start. Now let us work on making this town hall meeting the event of the year. We'll put together a plan to show everyone what the Marmon could mean for us together." He nodded, a spark igniting within him. If they could pull this off, it wouldn't just be about the truck. It would be about reigniting the spirit of their community. Imagining the town hall brimming with people excitedly discussing ideas made his heart race. As they moved closer to executing their plans, Sylvia and Jake started outlining everything they needed. Flyers, social media posts, gaining the support of local businesses. They could use the knowledge of everyone to create something exhilarating. With each passing idea they discussed, Jake felt the tension lift. More than ever, he realized he had a real shot at this. Later that evening, Jake found himself nervously sitting in his room, staring at the screen. He hadn't heard from his mother in a while. She was probably rewriting her response 100 times, all the doubts creeping back in with every keystroke. But he also wondered what if she had something genuine to say, something that could change everything. Just then, his phone buzzed again. "Can we talk? I want to hear more." His heart dropped and soared at the same time. This was at the moment he'd been both anticipating and dreading. How much would he reveal? Could he bear to share the highs and lows that led him to this point? Taking a deep breath, he replied, "Of course. When are you free?" Before he could contemplate further, a reply came through more quickly than he expected. "Tomorrow, let us meet at our usual spot." Jake's stomach flipped. His usual spot, the diner near the edge of town where they used to bond over milkshakes and fries before things drifted apart. Old memories mingled with new as he nodded to himself. "Tomorrow it is," he typed back, hoping his tone was lighter than he felt. But beneath the surface of excitement, fear lingered. What if sharing his vision didn't go as he hoped? What if he laid bare his dreams only for them to be stomped upon? Would she see past the surface of his passion to recognize the effort that came with it? As twilight deepened into night outside his window, he realized tomorrow could mark a turning point or send him spiraling back into doubt. He placed his phone down, heart pounding. Whatever happened, he had to find the courage to say everything he felt. He needed not just his mom's support, but the community's too. A rustling of hope sparked inside him. Jake grasped the edge of his desk, steadying himself as the night wrapped around him. Could these new connections really anchor him to the dreams he had held so tightly? The journey was just beginning, and he felt both terrified and alive. What truths would he reveal in the morning light? Would his mother help him launch into the unknown, or would she pull him back into the shadows? The sun peeked over the horizon the next morning, casting a golden glow across Maplewood. Jake woke with a mix of hope and anxiety swirling in his chest. It was the day of the town hall meeting, his chance to share the story of the Marmon and spark a fire in the heart of the community. As he dressed, memories of last night's preparations flickered through his mind. A feeling of determination surged through him. He had enlisted Sylvia, rallied support from friends and neighbors, and even sensed a shift in the Frosts. This was more than just about a truck. It was about creating a gathering place for stories, connections, and collective purpose. Jake rushed through breakfast, glancing at the sketches and plans plastered on the wall, every line, every date a promise of a better future. With a deep breath, he stepped out of his house. The crisp air filled his lungs, and the familiar sounds of the town began to provide comfort. As he made his way to the community center, he couldn't shake the feeling of expectation tightening in his chest. What if no one showed up? What if his dreams crumbled under the weight of doubt? Walking through the large wooden doors, a wave of warmth washed over him, dispelling the chill of uncertainty. The room was bustling. Neighbors chatted excitedly about the project, their smiles akin to a sunny day. Kids sprinted around there. A little girl twirled in a sundress. And there, a boy showed friends a toy truck flashed as brightly as the Marmon ever could. Jake! Sylvia's voice rang out. She was setting up a table with colorful flyers showcasing their initiative: a mural, workshops, hands-on projects. The hope in her eyes was infectious. Hey, Jake replied, a smile breaking out on his face. Everything looks amazing. Just wait until you see the turnout, she said, winking. Everyone's excited. As the minutes passed, Jake took a moment to collect himself, scanning the room for familiar faces. The Frosts arrived, heads held high, curiosity evident in their demeanor. His heart raced. This was the moment he had been waiting for, an opportunity to bridge the gap between wealth and the heart of the community. With the chairs now filled and laughter echoing through the hall, Jake stepped to the front, the moment having arrived. Thank you all for coming, he started, his voice calm but fervent. We have something special brewing here, and it starts with the Marmon. This isn't merely about restoring a truck. It's about reviving our shared spirit, building connections, storytelling. We're here to transform what is broken together. He paused as applause erupted. The clapping felt like a heartbeat, a rhythm of unity and excitement that matched the pulse in his veins. Lifting his chin, he met the eyes of Mrs. Frost. She nodded, a gesture of understanding that spurred him onward. Together, he and Sylvia shared their vision for the project, detailing how each color on the mural would symbolize a story, how each event would draw them closer. Jake described how the Marmon would become a symbol of their collective resilience, thriving long after the paint dried. With every shared word, his confidence grew, each smile from the crowd feeding his fire. When he finally finished, the room erupted into cheers. A little boy bolted to the front, face flushed with excitement. Can I paint the truck? He asked, bouncing on his toes. The laughter that followed was a gentle reminder of pure joy and hope as the questions flowed. Jake felt lighter, energized by the community's eagerness. Each suggestion from the crowd was a reminder that they were in this together, fervently believing in the project. Halfway through, Mr. Frost raised his hand, his face reflecting a newfound respect. Jake, we see potential in this. We'd like to help turn this vision into a reality, not just with funds, but as active participants. Jake's heart soared. Thank you. With your support and resources, we can create something meaningful for every family in Maplewood. At that moment, uncertainty faded away. There were still challenges ahead: logistics, funds, and every aspect that would require hard work. But now, he wasn't carrying that burden alone. It belonged to an entire community wrapped in dreams and hope. As the town hall meeting wrapped up in fervor and applause, Jake glanced around. The pride on the faces of his neighbors, the Frost's engaged interest, and the laughter of children filled him with warmth. Here, he saw the blend of old stories and new beginnings. The Marmon became not just a truck, but a promised vessel of dreams that would carry the stories of Maplewood forward. Jake's heart brimmed with excitement and determination. As the crowd dispersed, he felt the weight of his mother's impending conversation with resolve. Whatever happened, he would face it head-on, but he knew he was ready. With a community rallying behind him, he had everything to fight for. With each step he took, resilience echoed in his heart, a phrase he whispered to himself. Together, they would create a beautiful future. And now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories showing lives transformed. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and remind everyone of the power of community. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of connection and hope. True fans understand that your support means everything,